Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the channel where we talk about only good comics. I am Brant, and this is Friday Firsts. And yeah, my eyes are acting up this week, so I had to put the reading glasses on. Having a little trouble seeing the screen this morning for some odd reason. But we're going to talk about some comics, and I've got some for the first time in a while. I've got honorable mentions and a shout out. So that's pretty cool. And we got some books. We got a mix of first issues, story arcs, character debuts, and that kind of thing. It's a different week. There's not a whole lot of number ones that caught my attention that I'm really excited about. So we'll see what happens with this show. But if you are new to Friday First, um, this is a show where I talk about brand new number one issues coming out next week, or new story arcs that are starting, or character debuts, or first appearances, that kind of thing. And this is for books that are coming out on February 21st, February 20th for those DC books. And for the past couple of weeks, I've started talking about. I've done like a mini review of the number one issues that I talked about on last week's show. So I will get into that in just a minute. Before I do, I hope you all had a wonderful Valentine's Day. If you did anything special for that at all, we actually went over to my in-laws and had a steak dinner. So that was nice. It was a fun time for all of us to get together and just spend some time together. We also did this little I showed it on in my newsletter for my last number press brand, but we decided to leave our Christmas tree up and we decorated it for Valentine's Day. I have a 4-year-old niece. We take care of her during the weekdays, and so we did it up. I'll try to remember to put a picture up here so you all can see it, but we did it up with a Valentine's just little things, like actually Valentine cards, like the little ones you buy for like school and stuff, ribbons and things like that. And we actually got 4 small boxes of candy, and we put them on there, and we've had it up for a few weeks. And every day my niece would come over and be like, I want to take one off, and we're like, not today. And it got to the point where she said, don't say that. Don't say not today. And anyway, so finally the day came, and her granny came over, and we had a couple of presents for her. Granny got her one, we got her one, so she got to open those, and she finally got to take that box of candy off the tree. And it was a fun time. We did that in the morning, and then at night we had the steak dinner. So it was a nice little thing. Lisa and I are still going to do something, just the two of us as well at some point. But it was a fun week. So just wanted to share that with you all. I know you came here for comics though, but that's a little insight into my personal life. So I hope you enjoyed that little sidetrack. But now let's get into those books. Okay, so for the books from last week, I've only had a chance to read 3 of them so far. So I read Night Thrasher, issue number 1, I read Sinister Sons, issue number 1, and I read Scarlet and Quicksilver, issue number 1. So let's talk about those 3. Let's start with Sinister Sons. So I thought this was actually a decent read. Like, I've enjoyed the backup stories in Green Lantern of Simpson. I didn't love Kneel Before Zod issue 1, but I like the character of Lord Zod, and the way that they meet in Sinister Sons made a whole lot of sense. So Simpson, in those backup stories, if you have not been keeping up with that, he thinks he's the son of Sinestro, and that's been his whole goal. He's in a group of kids that are like kind of forced to go out and steal things to make money for this boss, this overlord. And in the last part of that story, he kind of overthrew the overlord. Now he's in charge of that group, but he's still trying to build a ship to escape the planet. He had built one and the guy had destroyed it. So now he's trying to build another one so he can go to Korgar and prove that he's Sinestro's son. So that's his whole thing. Lord Zod in Kneel Before Zod was banished from his home and his planet by Zod, his father, because he defied him or whatever, and he's just not going to take that. So he kicked him out. So now he's on his own adventures, and he comes across this planet that Simpson is on and decides to take it over. So that's kind of how they meet. Simpson sees his ship as an opportunity to finally get off and not have to waste all those months trying to build a new one. And so that's kind of how they how they come together, and that's where the issue kind of leaves off. So um, I thought it was fun. I thought it was, if you like either one of those characters from those stories, or if you like the pacing and kind of the tone of like Super Sons, but not quite as jovial. I think you would enjoy this. The art was really solid. It was really colorful and vibrant. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good start. Book of the week, no, but I thought it was pretty good. So that's that one. Next, we'll talk about Scarlet Witch of Quicksilver. I really loved this book. So I really enjoyed the previous Scarlet Witch run. I thought it was a really fun book. The art was always gorgeous in it. The storytelling was pretty good. Even though it was told in arcs, it was kind of okay, who's going to come through the door this arc, and we're going to solve that. So it became a little bit procedural, but even with that, I enjoyed the different adventures that Wanda went on, and with Darcy as her little sidekick kind of character. Darcy, over the course of that, and as is shown in this issue, became a full-fledged like supporting cast member. And I really like the contribution that Darcy and her voice adds to this dynamic with Wanda, because they're so completely different, and it just kind of works in a way. And then with this, even though it's just pretty much the same book, you're adding Quicksilver into the mix, and that's kind of why it makes sense to shift it to a new number one. It could have just, they could have just changed the title and kept the numbering. It doesn't really matter. It kind of makes sense either way you go, but this takes off from the point of view where a box shows up that has Wanda and Pietro's names on it, and it's obviously from Magneto, and it's something that is written on there that Scarlet Witch doesn't want Pietro to read, to protect him, so she destroys it, and it starts this feud. But that's just part of the plot, because then there's this whole other subplot, this vision that Wanda has, and this character gets involved that is targeting Wanda and Pietro, and we don't know what's going on and what's at play underneath the surface here, and who sent the box. So there's a mystery aspect to it as well, and there's like some big threat or something coming, some kind of I don't know if it's an agent of chaos or if it's just some mysterious villain or what it is, but there's something there. And I thought the way that this was paced was brilliant. Darcy being a full-fledged character and being Wanda's support system in this issue was really good. You got to get in the heads of both Wanda and Pietro through this issue. So I really, really enjoyed this book. So far, one of the best books I've read this week. So I really recommend Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. All right, so the final book I'm going to talk about with these is Night Thrasher number 1. As you might recall, it was my most anticipated last week, the book I was looking most forward to, and unfortunately it wasn't as good as I had hoped it was going to be. And maybe, just maybe, I built it up in my head because nostalgia. I love New Warriors. I love Night Thrasher as a character. His arc has been interesting, but this book, while I don't think it was a bad book, I think it was a good book. I thought it could have done more. I felt like, especially with the art, that everybody was just their reactions and their emotions were at a 9 the entire issue. So like it was like they were brought together because Silhouette's father, who ran the Taylor Foundation, which is Night Thrasher's foundation, passed away. And that's how we opened the book. And Night Thrasher comes to the funeral. He's late. He shows up in the back, and Silhouette's like, "Thanks for coming, but you could have told me you were in the area. You could have told me you were in LA." It was just like goes from 1 to 9 immediately, and then Taylor's like, "I've been." It just throughout the whole issue, it just goes from 1 to 9 constantly, right? There was a point where Dwayne Taylor, who is Night Thrasher, had to leave, and Silhouette is like, "You can't just leave me again," and he's like, we'll talk at the foundation. She's like, no. And he's like, we're talking about foundation. And it was so exaggerated. It was so ridiculous. And it was more the art than the actual dialogue that was kind of pointing to that. But it was so over the top. It took me out of it a little bit, unfortunately. I thought the story itself was fine. It just, everything was, let's get to that point. Let's get to that point. Let's get to that point. And it felt not rushed, but it just felt like there wasn't enough exploration on the different aspects of the story. So like, he's in town to basically close down the Taylor Foundation, which you find out immediately. And there's just like no talking to him. He's like, no, it's done. And then there's like even a councilman that's trying to convince him. He's like, no, done. And it's just, everything is just so, and then he like decides to become a superhero again. He's like, oh, there's crime, I'm gonna put my suit on, even though I had no plans on doing this at all. I'm gonna do it now I'm in a fight, and now I'm taken down, and now the issue ends. And it was just like, what did I just read? And again, I'm gonna continue reading it at least for the moment, but it was just kind of, I don't want to say it was just there. I don't want to be disrespectful to the creative team behind it, because this channel is called Only Good Comics, and I want to talk about Only Good Comics. It just wasn't as, I don't even know. I can't find the word to describe what I felt about this book. It was just a decent read, but it wasn't anything to be like, okay, you've got to go out and read this book. But it also wasn't anything to be like, oh, this is the worst book I've ever read. It wasn't like that. It was just okay. You know what I mean? I just felt like they could have explored some of that a little bit better, decompressed it a little bit more. Just, I don't know. It just didn't click for me. I wasn't invested in anyone in this, because they didn't give us time or opportunity to get invested into anyone. And those emotional roller coasters was just, it was a bit much, unfortunately. So that's my thoughts on Night Thrasher. That's the recap for this week. So let's move on with the show. All right, we're going to start things off with the honorable mentions. Now, I'm not a huge Predator fan, but I know there are a lot of Predator fans out there. So I definitely wanted to mention this one, because it is coming out. This Predator: The Last Hunt, issue number 1, and it is written by Ed Brisson. So if you're a Brisson fan or you're a Predator fan, you might want to check this one out. Hunt, kill, repeat for years. Theta has hunted and killed predators in her search for the one that killed her parents. So that's the first line of this. So that's where it's picking up if you followed Theta's storyline. So, yeah, Ed Brisson returns, artist Francesco Manna. So, again, if you're a Predator fan, check this one out. Next up is another franchise that I'm not personally a fan of. So, it's another honorable mention for the fans out there that are big Alien aficionados. So, we've got Alien Black, White, and Blood. So, doing the Black, White, and Blood, treatment on Alien. And this one is actually written by the team of Jackson Lanzing and Colin Kelly. So that's pretty cool. If you're a fan of when they get together, they've written stuff like Captain America. I think they're currently doing Thunderbolts, or at least one of them is. So they constantly write together. It's a writing team like DNA or something, but they do really well. They're good storytellers. So if you're a fan of theirs, again, or if you're just a big fan of Aliens, check it out. And my last honorable mention goes to Spawn 350. I'm not a reader of Spawn, but my good friend Mike Spiderslayer from Comic Book Corner 2.0 is. And I know that he's currently reading Gunslinger Spawn. So that's the book that he really likes. But this particular issue is not only a big 350th anniversary issue, key issue, record-breaking issue, but it also says in here that it will give answers to long gestating questions, and the aftermath of which will continue into the 4 current titles, which includes Gunslinger Spawn. So again, if you're a Spawn fan, if you're reading any of the current titles, you might want to check this out, because it seems like it's going to tie into any of those 4 current titles. So that's Spawn 350. That's your last honorable mention. Now let's get into those books that I am going to be checking out, these new #1 issues. And the first one is The Six Fingers from Image Comics. This is written by Dan Waters. Is it Waters? Yeah, it's Waters, who did Homesick Pilots, I believe, and artist Sumit Kumar, who I believe worked on The Vigil. And both of those series I enjoyed. From those perspectives, I like the writing on Homesick Pilots. I actually like the art as well, but I like the art on The Vigil. Also like the writing on that book. So anyway, these two coming together to do this book, The Six Fingers, and it starts off with an archaeology student who commits a murder and mimics this famous serial killer's MO, and that kind of opens up this Pandora's box of craziness that turns into a cat and mouse game. So it's basically like a Catch Me If You Can, kind of a chase thing, and I like those kind of stories. So you're talking solid writing, solid art, and a interesting concept. I'm there for at least a #1 issue. So the Six Fingers. I was trying to say figures and fingers at the same time. I don't know where figures came from, but anyway, the Six Fingers issue #1. I'm going to give it a potentially good. I think there's a lot to grab onto for me as a fan. So we'll see what I think about it once I get to read it. Okay, next one. I think some people are going to be surprised that I have this on my list because it is a distillery book, and I have not been overly impressed with distillery thus far. And I really, no disrespect, no offense, I really don't like the format. I don't like these oversized books that I have a hard time storing. They're just laying on a table in my closet right now, the ones that I do have. So I don't like the format, but what I do like is Mirka Andolfo. I'm a big Unnatural fan. I love that book, and I love Mirka Andolfo's style. I also like Steve Orlando, who did the translations for this book. And I don't know, there's something about it. It's a horror comedy with this, style of art that it's kind of I don't know, the juxtaposition of comedy and horror with this bombastic art style. This just kind of in your face, vibrant and bold kind of fun poppy kind of art style. It's just an interesting combination of elements there. So we have I don't know how to pronounce this, but Clelia, maybe the reigning queen of pop finds her throne shaken by a newcomer radiating with enigmatic charm. As her fans waver and the public eye threatens to wonder, Clelia and her demonic agent, Father Lev, are thrust into a battle for dominance on this exhilarating stage of music and mysticism. Another thing I love is music. I love when magic stuff is done right, and I don't know. There's a lot to potentially like here, so I'm giving it a potentially good. But I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant because I haven't really loved anything else from Distillery, but I'm hopeful. Fingers are crossed for this one, so we'll see. All right, now it is time for my one and only shout out for this week, for this episode of Friday First. And this one goes to the Jaguar issue #1. This is from Archie Comics. And while the character looks cool, the art is fun. The real reason I am shouting this out is because of the artist. The artist on this book is Tango. And Tango has worked with a good friend of mine, or good friends of mine, Kat Calamia and Phil Falco of Lifeline Comics. And here is some of Tango's art. That first and third image are covers from not from Lifeline Comics, but from books that Kat and Phil have worked on, like Father Like Daughter is that first one, and the third one is a book from Bad Bug Media that I'm blanking on the name. It's either Bombshell Atomica or Atomica Bombshell. I can't remember which way it goes, but cool book that is on Kickstarter right now. So definitely wanted to shout out Tango for the work on Archie Comics with the Jaguar. So if you're a Tango fan, or you're an Archie fan, or you just like trying new books, check out the Jaguar #1. Okay, we're getting to my final 3 books, and this is another one that might surprise some people that are on my list recently on Comic Book Weekly, we talked about this book and how I wasn't excited about it, but then I saw the cover and it intrigued me. I saw that the previously mentioned team of Lansing and Kelly are actually writing this, and that intrigued me. So this character on the cover here, who I assume that is the Weapon VIII that they're referring to in this description, looks like Cyclops, a version of Cyclops, obviously alternate universe, but a version of Cyclops that has spider powers. That interests me, and now I want to know about this character and I want to check this out. So it has hopped on my radar because I had not looked at this previously. As soon as I see Spider-Verse, typically I just kind of turn off in comic form because I've just kind of been burnt by recent series of Spider-Verse that just haven't really done it for me. But this one's getting potentially good for me for those reasons that I mentioned. So hopefully we'll see. I'm going to try out the number one and we'll go from there. Oddly enough, my last two books are not number one issues. So Titans number 8 is the start of a new story arc, which is the aftermath of Beast World. Now, Titans was a book that was on the fence for me prior to Beast World, but Beast World was such a good event. I enjoyed it from start to finish. It really delivered on all aspects of it, and now I'm really curious what's going to happen with the team going forward, what's going to happen with Raven, and what's going to happen with Beast Boy. So this arc, and this obviously the new world order, the new regime that is in place in the aftermath of Beast World. So I'm really curious what's going to happen in Titans going forward, and I'm a little excited. So I'm going to give this one a promisingly good, because I'm excited about it, but at the same time, I'm just trying to temper those expectations. I don't want to get burned by Titans again. So I do think coming out of Beast World and all the things that it set up, it does have a lot of promise. So that's Titans number 8. And the final book for the week is Cobra Commander issue number 2. This one is on the list because it is the first appearance in the Energon verse, this version of the G.I. Joe books of the Dreadnoks. We see Buzzer on the cover here. It talks about a fan favorite G.I. Joe faction, obviously referring to the Dreadnoks. We got the tease in the last page, or towards the end of Cobra Commander issue number 1, where he was approaching where they hang out. So I'm a big fan of the Dreadnoks. I love the Dreadnoks. Buzzer is visually always been a favorite. Torch was one of the first G.I. Joe figures I ever got when I was a kid. Zartan followed soon after that. I was always a big fan of those characters. So for me, this is just really cool. And I just realized that this is not filling the screen like it normally does, and I don't know why. So I apologize for that. I just noticed I'm looking at my screen. I'm like, oh, there's empty space on the side of the browser here, and I don't understand because it's filling the screen that I'm looking at, but it's not filling the screen here. Probably because I'm using a different browser, having trouble connecting the League of Comic Geeks through Google Chrome recently for some odd reason. But anyway, I apologize for that little sidetrack. But Cobra Commander number 2 is getting a positively good, which is not something I give out often, but I love G.I. Joe. I really enjoyed the first issue, and now you're adding Dreadnoks to the mix. This is definitely getting top ranks for me, and that's why it's the last book I'm talking about as well. So that's Cobra Commander issue number 2 with the positively good. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Friday First. I hope you enjoyed it. I mentioned Comic Book Weekly earlier in the show. This past Tuesday night was our 10-year anniversary celebration, and we had a really great time reminiscing, sharing memories of the show, talking about how the show came to be, how we met each other. We shared stories of videos and past cast members and things like that. We also talked news and topics, and shared our top 5s of the week, and celebrated 10 years. So if you missed it, go check it out, cbwpodcast.com, or search for Comic Book Weekly on YouTube, and you can check out the 10-year anniversary stream. But that's it. If you like this edition of Friday First, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help, and it just makes me feel good to get those likes, to see people liking, and leave a comment, because I love comments. I love interacting with you all. So I really appreciate those that have commented in the past, and I look forward to reading your comments in the future. And of course, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss any episodes of Friday First or any of the other content that I put up on the channel. You can follow me across social media at Only Good Comics, and hit onlygoodcomics.com in your browser to come right back here to the YouTube channel, where we can talk about only good comics. Until next time, thanks for watching. Keep reading those comics and take care.